The summer sun filtered through tall oak trees in Glenridge Park, casting shifting shadows across the neatly trimmed grass. Birds chirped lazily. Joggers passed by with earbuds and lost in rhythm. At a far bench near the children's playground, Dr. Eliza Grant, 32, sat alone, wearing a light gray dress, modest but graceful, sipping her green tea. Eliza was a therapist, one of the best in town. Specializing in trauma recovery, she had helped victims of abuse war veterans and survivors of unimaginable horrors find their voice again. Her own voice, however, was one she rarely used outside her sessions. Today was her day off. No sessions, no clients, just peace. Or so she thought. "Hey, lady therapist!" A rough voice rang out. 3 men, mid-20s, swaggered toward her from the basketball court. Shirts off, sweat-soaked, all muscle and mockery. Their leader, a man with spiked hair and a cruel grin, pointed a finger toward her dress. "You psycho-babble freaks don't need nice clothes. You need a real job." Eliza didn't respond. She simply sipped her tea and looked away. She'd heard worse. "Too good to talk now," the second one said, stepping in front of her, blocking the view of the playground. His eyes scanned her up and down with disturbing boldness. "Come on. What do you tell your clients? Breathe and relax." The third one, the youngest looking, smirked. "I bet she's the type that likes it rough." "You got issues too, don't you, Doc?" Eliza's grip on her cup tightened slightly, but she didn't move. Her eyes, calm yet unreadable, met the speaker's gaze. "Please leave me alone," she said flatly. "Wrong move," the leader snarled. "Or what? You'll psychoanalyze me to death." In one swift movement, he reached out and ripped the shoulder of her dress with a loud tear. The thin fabric gave way, exposing her upper arm. Eliza gasped, not from pain, but from the rush of something else boiling up inside. The laughter from the 3 men echoed through the park. One nearby mother on a bench turned to look, clearly unsure what was happening. A man with a stroller slowed his pace, but no one intervened yet. Eliza stood up slowly. Her movements were precise, calculated, like a predator standing from crouch. She set her cup down beside her on the bench. Her posture changed. Her shoulders squared. Her eyes darkened. The bullies didn't notice. They were too busy nudging each other, laughing like teenagers who thought they'd just played a harmless prank. But Eliza wasn't shaking. She wasn't crying. She was still. And in that stillness, something deep inside her, something dormant for years, snapped awake. The leader leaned in again. "What's wrong, Doc? You gonna write a paper about this?" Eliza's voice came low and quiet. "You should have walked away." He smirked. "Or what?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. What happened next would silence every soul in the park and leave Jaws' bones and reputations permanently altered. Eliza's mind wasn't in the park anymore. It was in a desert dust. Fire, screams, a compound burning. Men in black uniforms shouting commands. She was in uniform too. 10 years younger. Camo-clad arms bloodied, not from being wounded, but from breaking a man's arm in 3 places. His knife had been meant for her throat. She had been Sergeant Eliza Grant, one of the youngest and most decorated combat trainers in the military's elite security corps. Her specialty, psychological warfare and extreme hand-to-hand combat. But that was another life. That life had ended the night she took down her own commanding officer to protect a woman in the field. Her conscience was clear, but the consequences were heavy. She walked away from war, from violence, from herself. Until today, the rip in her dress was nothing. What it symbolized, that was everything. She hadn't been touched like that in years. The feel of fingers tearing fabric, the hot breath of a man. Too close, the weight of mockery disguised as laughter, it all came back. She saw the face of the commanding officer she'd decked. The same sneer, the same arrogance. Back in the park, the second bully circled her. "You mad now? Don't get mad, baby. Get even. Or maybe," he reached out again, "get naked." His hand didn't make it. Crack. Eliza's arm twisted at a speed that defied logic, snapping his wrist backward. A cry of pain escaped him, shrill, undignified. He stumbled away, clutching his hand. The leader laughed at his friend's misfortune. "You got handled by a chick therapist." He stepped forward, unaware of the shift in air pressure, the sharp change in her eyes. Eliza didn't blink. "Apologize," she said, voice level, soft like silk, before it tightens around the throat. He scoffed. "For what?" "Giving you some attention. That was it." Eliza moved. She didn't run, didn't wind up like in movies. She pivoted on one foot and slammed a palm square into his chest, sending him flying 3 steps backward. The wind knocked from his lungs. He crumpled to one knee, gasping like a beached fish. The third one, the youngest, froze. His bravado vanished. "What the hell? Who are you?" Eliza turned to him, her posture neutral, eerily calm. "I'm someone who tried peace first." Her words cut deeper than any fist. Around them, a crowd had started to form, people abandoning strollers. Phones lifted, a few muttering, "Is she okay? And did she just do that?" The second guy, still clutching his wrist, cried out, "You broke it, you crazy!" "You were warned," she said, stepping closer. "I gave you the chance to walk away." The leader tried to stand, rage replacing pain. "You want to fight, bitch?" Eliza stepped into his path, face to face, inches apart. "I don't want to," she said, eyes burning. "But I will." And the leader, for the first time, looked truly unsure. Not of her strength, but of the fact that she wasn't scared. That terrified him. "Let's go, man," the youngest whispered, tugging on his friend's arm. "Let's just bounce. She's crazy." But the leader wasn't ready to let it go. His pride, already humiliated, needed a win, and he was about to make the worst mistake of his life. Eliza could feel it, the tension in his muscles, the coiled rage in his shoulders. He wasn't going to back off. Not now. Not after being humiliated in front of a dozen people. And certainly not with phones recording from every angle. "The leader, Brad!" Someone shouted his name, lunged forward in a burst of fury. A messy right hook aimed straight for her cheek. She didn't flinch. She stepped sideways, barely a shift in weight, and let his momentum carry him forward. As he stumbled, she turned and caught his leg behind the knee with her foot. He dropped like a bag of bricks onto the grass, air knocked out of him once again. "Get off me!" he screamed, writhing. Eliza didn't answer. She didn't need to. She crouched beside him, close enough that only he could hear. "I help people reclaim control," she whispered. "You just gave me mine back." Then she stood. The second guy, Jake, was now seated against the base of a tree, his swollen wrist held to his chest. His voice was shrill, on the verge of tears. "She's not normal, man. She's like some kind of ninja shrink or something." The third, young, skinny, and shaking, took a few steps back. Eliza turned toward him slowly. His hands flew up in surrender. I didn't even touch you. I didn't rip your dress." "But you laughed," she said, calm as ever. His lips parted, unsure how to argue that. "You stood by while it happened," she added. "Do you know what that makes you?" He swallowed hard. I guess part of it," she nodded. "Exactly." His knees buckled, and he dropped to the ground like a child being scolded. I'm sorry, he blurted. I'm so sorry. A beat of silence passed. People around them didn't speak. The park moments ago, filled with normal suburban noise, now buzzed with hushed awe and the faint buzzing of camera phones. Then from the grass, Brad, who still hadn't learned, spat blood and shouted, "You think this makes you powerful, huh? You think we're scared of you now?" Eliza turned. "No," she said, voice cool. "But your jaw's about to be." Brad launched again, this time lower, a wild swing at her waist, meant to knock her down. He underestimated her again. In a single fluid motion, Eliza turned her back, planted her feet, and executed a spinning heel kick. Her leg arced through the air like a blade. Crack! The side of her heel connected with Brad's jaw at full force. Time froze. His head snapped sideways with an ugly pop. His knees buckled, and he dropped to the ground face first, unconscious. Gasps erupted. A child in the distance cried out. Phones lowered. Even the birds stopped singing for a moment. The crowd stood stunned, no one quite sure what to do. Then applause. Hesitant at first, then louder. A few bystanders, women, mostly nodded solemnly. One man muttered, "That guy had it coming." Eliza stood in the middle of it all, breathing slowly. She rolled her shoulder, once the remnants of her torn dress fluttering in the breeze. Her hands were steady. Her heart rate had already slowed. The muscle memory was still there, lethal precision wrapped in silk. Police sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Someone had called them. But Eliza didn't run. She didn't explain. She simply waited. Because now, for the first time in years, she wasn't ashamed of what she used to be. The sirens grew louder, cutting through the stunned silence like a blade. 2 patrol cars skidded to a halt near the playground. Officers jumped out hands, already reaching for their belts, unsure of what they were walking into. The crowd parted as they approached the scene. 3 men on the ground, one unconscious, one sobbing, and one cradling a broken wrist. In the center stood a woman with a torn dress, breathing evenly, her eyes steady. Officer Ramirez, tall and gruff, approached first. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" Eliza looked at him calmly. "No." He glanced around. "Can someone tell me what happened?" Before she could speak, voices erupted all around them. She was assaulted. They ripped her dress unprovoked. She warned them to stop. "I've got it on video." Several people waved their phones, eager to hand over their recordings. Ramirez raised a hand to calm the commotion, but already understood what kind of situation this was. His partner, Officer Tran, knelt beside Brad, whose jaw now hung slightly off-center. He groaned, but remained dazed. "You'll need an ambulance," she muttered. Eliza didn't move. She waited. Ramirez turned back to her. Self-defense. "Yes," she said plainly. Jake, the one with the broken wrist, whined from his spot against the tree. "She broke my wrist. She also saved your life," a woman from the crowd snapped. "If she wanted to kill you, you'd already be dead." There was no exaggeration in her voice. No drama. Just the cold, hard truth. Ramirez rubbed his temple. "We're going to need to take statements from everyone. Ma'am, we'll need yours too." Eliza nodded. "Of course." He looked at her, something like respect in his eyes. "Are you law enforcement?" "No." "Military." She paused. "I was." He nodded slowly. "That explains a lot." From the grass, the youngest of the 3 bullies, still shaking, looked up at her. "I'm sorry," he said again, voice cracking. I didn't know." She crouched beside him, not unkindly. "Let that be the last time you use ignorance as an excuse," she said. "You're not a boy anymore. Choose better men to follow." He looked like he might cry, but he nodded. Officer Tron returned, radioing for medical backup. The unconscious man would need to be checked. Maybe surgery. Definitely a lesson he'd remember every time he looked in the mirror. Eliza stood. Her dress was torn at the shoulder and hip, the fabric fluttering. Despite that, she stood tall, shoulders squared, chin up. Ramirez gestured to a nearby bench. "Let's get you a statement. We'll keep this clean. You have a license to carry." She shook her head. "I don't need one." He smiled faintly at the dry confidence. Noted, as she walked past, the crowd people parted like water. A young girl whispered to her mother, "Is she a superhero?" "No," the mother replied softly. "She's just brave." Eliza sat on the bench, crossing one leg calmly. Her bare shoulder gleamed in the sun, bruised but unbowed. Nearby, paramedics loaded Brad onto a stretcher. He moaned incoherently, unaware that the moment he'd tried to strip someone else of dignity, he had stripped himself of his own. Officer Ramirez handed Eliza a clipboard. "You sure you're okay?" She glanced down at her trembling hand, not from fear, but from the adrenaline finally wearing off. "Yes," she said, "I'm okay now." For the first time in a long time, she meant it. An hour later, the sun had dipped lower in the sky, casting golden light across the quiet park. The crowd had dispersed. Brad was gone. Ambulance lights fading into the distance. Jake had been escorted into the police car. His wrist stabilized and his words reduced to choked sobs. The youngest was still seated on the curb, speaking quietly with Officer Tron. She didn't cuff him. Instead, she listened. Maybe she saw something salvageable in him. Eliza remained seated on the bench, now wearing a police jacket draped over her shoulders. Her torn dress was mostly hidden beneath it, but the bruises remained. Her silence was not the stillness of defeat. It was the silence of reflection. Ramirez sat beside her, scribbling the final notes on his report. He looked up. "We get calls about park disturbances all the time. Usually it's teenagers yelling or someone walking a dog off leash. But this was something else. I didn't want it to happen," Eliza said quietly. "I came here for peace." Ramirez nodded. "Funny thing about peace. Sometimes you don't find it, you earn it." She gave him a faint smile. Not forced, not polite. Real. "What'll happen to them?" she asked, not looking at him. "The unconscious one will face assault charges once he's conscious. The one with the broken wrist, same. The younger one might get a second chance. Depends on what he does next." Eliza nodded slowly. "That's fair. Your background helps," Ramirez added. "But truth is, even without the combat training, you still did what most people wouldn't." "I wasn't trying to be brave," she said. "I just remembered who I was before I buried her." Ramirez looked at her more carefully now. "You're not just a therapist," he said. "I am," she replied. "That part is real. But now, I think I finally found the balance." He rose and tipped his head. "If you ever want to train officers on restraint and control, let me know. We could use someone like you." Eliza raised an eyebrow. "I just finished rebuilding my life. You're already trying to recruit me again." He grinned. "Just planting the seed." A young woman approached, then a bystander from earlier. Her eyes were red and her voice trembled as she spoke. "Excuse me. I saw everything. I've had things happen to me too, but I never fought back. Not like you." Eliza stood, gently took the girl's hand. "You don't need fists to fight," she said. "You just need to remember that your worth isn't up for debate." The girl nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. She whispered, "Thank you," before walking away, shoulders straighter. Eliza watched her go, then turned toward the playground. Children were laughing again. Swing chains squeaked. The world had started spinning back to normal, but something had changed in her. She reached for the shredded dress at her side and folded it neatly in her lap. She would never wear it again. But she wouldn't throw it away either. It would serve as a reminder of boundaries, of silence broken, of power reclaimed. She took one last breath of the fresh park air, then started walking. No rush, no fear, no weight. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. This story isn't just about self-defense. It's about reclamation. Eliza's journey teaches us that silence in the face of cruelty isn't always weakness, but when lines are crossed, standing tall becomes an act of survival. True strength doesn't always come from fists or training. It comes from knowing your value and refusing to let others take it from you. For anyone who's ever been mocked, touched without consent, or made to feel small, remember your past doesn't define you, but it can strengthen you. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to surrender to it. Whether you fight back with words, actions, or simply walking away with dignity, never forget you are not powerless. Like Eliza, your moment to rise may come without warning. And when it does, don't shrink, stand.